In question 1 we're given this table here, which we're told is partially completed, and we're asked which word or statement does not correctly fit into the table. So since we have a total of 6 gaps here, and we have 7 potential answers, A through G, we have to work out which of them would not fit in this table. Okay, so we can, before we look at them, we can say that we have 2 glands missing, 2 hormones missing, and 2 functions missing. Okay, so here are our 7 options. We have a number of options of how to do this in the most efficient way possible. One might be to opt for selecting things that you know the functions of and slowly work through A through G, and that's one option. Let's work through it that way. Well, we know that insulin is produced by beta cells of the pancreas in order to regulate blood glucose levels by converting glucose into glycogen, which is stored in the liver. Okay, so bearing that in mind, we can move on to B. We know that A is not an option anymore, since we want to find the one which does not fit into the table. Moving on to B, we know that an increase in the heart rate corresponds to the function of the adrenal glands' production of adrenaline. Adrenaline modulates the beta adrenoreceptors in the heart in order to increase the heart rate, corresponding to the fight or flight response that people get when adrenaline is produced in tense scenarios. Moving on to C, we have the pituitary, and we should know that this is a gland, and in this case we can identify it with ADH, which is produced in order to regulate water levels in the blood, so we can move that across as well. Moving on to testosterone, well, we should know that this is produced by the testes, that's going from the name, and that leads to, amongst other things, male secondary sexual characteristics, such as the development of a deeper voice or body hair during puberty. Moving on to E, corresponding to the testes, we have the ovary, which is the female equivalent, and that also leads to the development of female secondary sexual characteristics, such as the development of breasts and the beginning of menstruation. And finally, we're left with option F, which is carbohydrates, and something you should have done, perhaps, when going through this question, to find a more efficient means of doing this than what we've just done, is to identify that carbohydrate is an enzyme. It isn't a gland or a hormone or a function of a particular gland or hormone. It is an enzyme, a biological molecule which catalyzes certain reactions, as opposed to a hormone, which is a blood-borne chemical or blood-borne protein, which modulates certain effects over a slower time frame than the nervous system, and therefore we can say that F is our answer for the item which does not fit into our table.